was transported to heaven. I sat up in heaven and I looked on the horizon, and there was this bright light, but it was like his white robe. Like all of heaven was his white robe of love and forgiveness.
This is Touched by Heaven, everyday encounters with God. Those moments when heaven and earth collide. And they collide all over the place. In this episode, 237. Welcome to it. I am your host, Trapper Jack. We have such an interesting guest today. I loved my conversation with Kymm.
My first vision was with Jesus, then Archangel Michael and Mother Mary. And that's saying something because I didn't grow up in any kind of traditional religious background.
This feels a bit like we're all in an ice cream parlor, ice cream shop, all the different flavors and everything. We're all there, and we all have our bowl. Here's our starting point, and we're starting pretty much the same place. I've got vanilla, maybe you've got chocolate, but basically the same place. And I'm looking in your bowl, and you're looking at mine. Yeah, we're all in the same place. And then come the toppings. Now we go, wait, really? You put peanut butter in that? And you're looking at me going, really? What's with the chocolate syrup when you could have the butterscotch? So we're looking at each other's toppings going, really?
But I don't know where I fit.
Yeah, Kymm just came into the shop and she's looking at our toppings.
A lot of different areas of subject matter, and that's okay to talk about a near death. Because if a lot of times when you Google Christian, it's all evangelistic, and it is a no-no to talk about Archangel Michael. It's a no-no to talk about the Holy Mother. It's a no-no to talk about, Jesus in the way that I've received him. It's like, well, did you go through our steps? I mean, you know what I mean?
Have you properly put God in a box?
Exactly. Yeah. And yet I've received him. So why am I being quiet about it? A lot of people that come to me, they're into the psychic medium thing, but they don't want to hear about Jesus. They're like New Agers. So I don't know where I have brought Jesus to many people that don't believe. I feel a little bit lonely sometimes because there's not a lot of people that are talking about being Christian, having a strong foundation in Christ, but that they have clairvoyant and intuitive gifts. They keep those pushed down because we're not allowed to talk about that everywhere. But I don't know exactly where I fit half the time. As soon as I heard you, I fell in love with your voice, and I fell in love with the fact that if I can be honest, I felt like I was home. I was like, wait, how is this possible that I didn't know about this before?
Kymm was born in the Cleveland area.
My mom moved us to Vegas shortly, like I was like 1.5 or something like that.
Then gambled you away.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, you got lost in a poker game. Yeah, I know. I know how it works. Yeah. They then moved to a little place called Ramona, California.
First day I walked into school, I saw my husband of 38 years across the schoolyard, and I knew it. And I went home and I wrote it down on a piece of paper. I told my mom, and there she wrote that history.
What was it in this guy? How old were you? You were how old?
I was 17. I saw, guess what? I didn't even see his actual face. I saw him across the schoolyard. He had on these corduroy pants and this striped shirt with a tie. He was ASB president, and he wasn't dressed like anybody else. He wasn't, the typical guy that I probably would have been attracted to at that time. He was just very different, but I feel like that was really my first true intuitive experience where I knew without a doubt that I was going to be with him for the rest of my life. I just knew it. And I knew that we would be involved musically as well. And there was like a lightning strike. My mom and my dad were really burnt out on religion, and they were following gurus.
Yeah. Jesus is, in all, I remember this because I went through this too. Jesus ain't fun. He ain't fun. I got this other guru spiritual. But Jesus is that traditional stuff that you didn't, right. Embrace. Yeah, I get you.
It was that time. But I was like, I remember I was 8 years old, and I asked my mom, I go, for some reason, God put me in a pathway where my best friends in my very early childhood had fathers that were reverends or pastors. So when I would spend the night, they would like, okay, we're going to say our prayers. And I didn't know what we were doing on our knees, like what was the deal with this. Like I didn't understand it. So I asked my parents, could I go to church, like attend that? And they said, well, we'll drop you off, but we're not going anywhere near an establishment like that. So what I'm saying is, for me to have an experience where Jesus, it was a I get emotional, but he is everything, and he is all loving. In my darkest moments, he has appeared to me. I was afraid of the dark. I know that sounds strange, but I was afraid of the dark because of a past trauma. So I was just really in a dark place. And my cousin had sent me a Bible. Okay, now I had never read a Bible. I didn't intend to read the Bible. It was on my nightstand. I was in the bed. I was curled up. I was like crying, and I was asking God for help because I was so hurt. And I just glanced at the Bible. All of a sudden, there is this feeling that I'm being rocked. And as I'm being rocked, it's like a three-way view of it. I was seeing this form, rock me, like I was in someone's arms and I was being rocked. And as I looked down, I saw a white robe, and I knew that it was our Lord Jesus. I knew it with all of my being. And I opened my physical eyes, and I also saw it with my physical eye. And yet I was above in the room at the same time, looking at it almost like I was out of my body as well. And I could see me in his arms in a rocking chair that was not there, that was over by the window. And I was being rocked. And it was a feeling that you just cannot explain. It was a love. It's all what we are looking for in everything that we do, that we're searching for. And it's not really available to us here on earth. It's an immense, all-encompassing forgiveness, compassion. And it was like everything all wrapped up in that. And that was the moment that I received the Holy Spirit and the love of Christ in that very moment. I'd never stepped foot in a church before. And yet, so I feel that Jesus is available to us just in the asking. You don't have to do a certain traditional thing in order to receive him. You just have to ask to help him to go into your heart. There was some kind of divine timing in it, because that Bible, I feel like it had something to do, although I had never opened it. It was sitting there and I had glanced at it, and I was just asking God for help. So maybe there's something in that I received that vision. That was my first vision. That was my early 20s.
And without question, tied to the Bible. Without question,
Yes.
he is tying you to that Bible. Like, not a bad
Yes,
thing to
he
look
is.
in here. Yeah, I'm in here.
Right,
This book
right.
is all about me before I got here and
Yes,
when I got here. Yeah.
exactly.
Right. Okay.
Moving ahead, when I had my son at age 37, I started to have, uh, I was always intuitive, like always able to, I would have prophetic dreams. There was always this thing, like I would know who was calling before they called. I had this intuition, but I didn't really own it. I kind of kept it hidden. I didn't want people to think that I was weird or crazy. So I just kind of kept it to myself. And when I had my son, that gift started to become very powerful. So I would sometimes be woken up in the middle of the night with the fans going and the lights were on, and I would walk down the hall and I would see, uh, you know, like a young girl, like walk down the hall, and she was in this white form, glowing in white, and she would say, "Tell my father I'm okay." And I would instantaneously know that her father was a doctor that I was going to see the next day that I had never met. And then when I had a conversation with him, his daughter had passed away. And she was the age of 13. So there were I was being called to give messages to those that were going through grief. And I believe that it is all through Jesus. None of this ever happened till after I had that vision with Jesus. So for me, it feels like all of that is through the Holy Spirit.
How did you start the conversation with that?
So I was in the waiting room and I saw him. I knew that he was a very strong Christian man. I knew that about him as through the referral. And I said, if you really need to get this message to him, he's going to have to make the first move. I am not going to do it because, if he opens the door,
yeah,
I will give him the message.
I like that.
So I go into the room with him, and he's an alternative MD. So he's doing some muscle testing on me and some things like that, some kinesiology. Paper, an envelope falls down on the ground. And he's like, oh, and he picks it up and he's like, this is my daughter's letter to me before she died. And I was like, okay, this is it. So I said,
think?
What else do you want, right? And so he opens it up and he proceeds to read the letter to me. And this letter was that she wanted to be with God. She wanted to be with Jesus. Now, she's at a very young age, and this is a very strong Christian family. It wasn't like she was suicidal. She just said she wanted to be with Jesus. And he was reading this letter to me. And 5 days later, she got into a car accident. So I was scared of this. I really didn't want to talk about it to anybody. I didn't want to own it, really. So it took many years for me to finally, lift this up to the Lord and say, if you want me to do it, then, that's okay with me.
Right.
I believe the next thing was I was laying on the floor in the living room. And I call that, I don't know if anybody out there is a Trekkie, but in the nexus. So it's this blissful moment where my son is like 2.5. He's playing with his train, choo choo. He's just standing there by the couch. He's beautiful. And I just laid down on the carpet and there was a fire going. And, just that really peaceful relaxation, that mother place, where I'm just listening to my child and I'm relaxing my body. And I was just having this nonchalant discussion with God. So I said, what is forgiveness? I mean, we say we forgive, and then then you also sometimes feel like you actually didn't really totally forgive yourself or another. And then there's like these layers or something. And I was just asking, how do I completely forgive myself or another? How do I really do that? And are angels really real? Or is that something that we have to have a human form? In the Renaissance period, everybody was painting angels and, and do we like associate a human form, like so that we can actually accept it? I lifted up my head. I just, how you get up from a laying pose, you lift up your head. And I looked in front of me and there was a very large archangel. Okay, so now, again, I don't know anything about this. Saint Michael, as you call him, or Archangel Michael. I don't know anything about this stuff. So I sit up, but I know automatically that Archangel Michael is sitting down. He is 7'4", but he's sitting down. Maybe others see him differently, but he was very Nordic looking. He had a shield on, like on his chest. It looked like bronze and copper. In the Bible, it says that he is going to accompany Jesus in the return. And I believe that because I believe he is the servant warrior of Christ. This is what I feel that he is the force in our universes that can dominate evil. Like, I don't know what we think power is, but it's nothing like what he is. He is so powerful that it's like he is the definition of power. I see in capital letters within my inner mind, my inner knowing, my inner sight, I see, I am real. And his voice is so booming. I was petrified. I mean, my whole body was vibrating. I don't know. It just was so overwhelming that I was afraid. And I got up and I ran into the kitchen and I sat on the step that I sit on all the time and I have cereal. I sat in the corner and I was like, what? I'm not supposed to see that. I mean, like, isn't the Pope supposed to, like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm too small to see something like that. Okay.
We had the woman in Australia, Michelle, and crying out and she never prayed to Michael, the archangel. And all of a sudden there's this boating thing going on and she cries out for his help and he does.
Oh boy, I just got chills.
Yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about it. Something's going on with Michael and Charlie. And there's a boy named Gabriel, and we named him after the angel Gabriel. And then Jim rolls up his sleeve and says, look here, and there's Michael the archangel tattoo on his arm. And now here you are, and again, he is saying, I am real. You get a sense that we think of Michael, we think of battle. And at this time in the world, we think of that final battle, that we're getting closer to that final battle.
Yes.
And I don't know what God's up to, but I think maybe we know what God's up to here. He's just reminding us this battle for our souls is on. This battle at the end of this era, this age is coming.
Yes.
There is something so in the air right now, something so in the air.
It is so in the air. And he is, what I kind of felt is that, I mean, if anybody wants to learn from my experience, is that he's not too busy to call on. He's not too.
None of them are. That's funny you say that. I know we always think we're bothering him. I don't mean to bother you.
He's too big. He's in the Bible, and he's going to be coming with Jesus. You can't call on.
He's everywhere.
And this is so hard for us as humans to understand because we're bound by time, space, and distance. We don't understand. Well, what do you mean? If he's in heaven, then I call him here, and he's only with me. No.
And we tell stories now and then. There are, like St. Padre Pio could bilocate. He had this special gift.
Yes.
So just think of what heavenly beings can do and are allowed to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so if you're frightened, if you're having problems with, negative thoughts about your self-value, yourself, your welfare, your safety, ask for his sword of righteousness and his shield. Just call to him. He's there. He's not too big. He's not too powerful. He's available because God made him to protect us. This is his role. And it isn't just earth. It's the whole entire of creation. This is how powerful it felt when he was appearing to me. I cannot. I mean, in our dictionary, it should where it says power, it should say Archangel Michael. That's what it should say because there's nothing else.
Oh, there he is.
There's no other way.
Yeah. Yeah.
He did not have wings. I will say that he didn't appear to me to have wings. He just was seated, but I knew his height. So
and I believe he can be taller than that. I don't think I think you were seeing a set. Because you hear about archangels being 50 feet tall, and some people have seen him that big and huge and all that kind of stuff. So that he's sitting in your room. That I think you got the 7'4" version because you need to sit in your house. I don't know. I don't know how all that works. I don't get these. Sometimes they have wings, sometimes they don't. I don't think it matters. But for whatever reason, yeah. Can we go back for 1 second because something is playing on me, so I need to go back to it so I don't forget. You asked Jesus, what is forgiveness? Did we get the answer?
For me, Archangel Michael is power, and I'm sure he is other things, but maybe I'm compartmentalizing. But Jesus is our forgiver. And if you go into deep supplication, I mean deep, when you're in your rock bottom moment and you lift that up to him and just ask for help, say, I cannot forgive. this person. And I cannot forgive myself and I need help. And so you're going to receive that help in different ways. It may be from a book and it may be in layers. Don't expect that I was expecting, well, I did that forgiveness, course. I did that. I'm done with that, right? Well, no. So forgiveness is a journey. And you're going to look at things in different ways through your years. You're going to look at that mistake that you made, or that, you know, abusive thing that happened to you in the past. You're going to look at that in different ways as you go through life, but always turning to Him, and lifting that up. And Mother Mary to me is, the way I have been downloaded the information is that the Holy Mother exists within the heart of Christ. And so when we ask for her prayer, it is exceptionally powerful and it becomes part of His consciousness. It doesn't mean that we can't go to Him directly. It's just that she is compassion, complete and utter compassion, and especially for children. So there is that, like, if you went through something as a child, you can call to her. Sometimes we need a mother. Sometimes we need a matriarch. Other times we need a patriarch. Other times we need an archangel Michael. They're all one and the same under God. So just call. Don't
overthink it, right?
Yeah, don't overthink it.
You need a mom, go to mom.
God can speak to us in our inner ear, in our heart. There's many ways to hear the messages of God. It could be just a thought that you have that you didn't really generate. And it's always love filled. Always love filled.
Good stuff.
Okay.
Good stuff. Okay, where are we going next?
Okay, we are going next to, I'm like 40 years old. I have been diagnosed with cancer once, really asking God, can I have another child? I had had a miscarriage, and I just was in that place where I don't know if there's other mothers out there where you don't know if you can do it again. We had a bustling and hectic traveling schedule with all the performances. My husband and I have a entertainment company with the bands and all that. So we were all over the place, all over the world, performing for the standing president, like all over the place. And so I was letting all those thoughts go in my mind, and I was crying, and I fell asleep with, tears on my face, like on the pillow. It's dawn, maybe a little bit before dawn. And I feel this. First, I hear my name called, Kymm, and it's a female voice. And I look around in the room, and there's all this pink light, but we have blackout shades. So there's really no light coming into this room. And I hear this voice outside of my ear and inside of my ear and in my heart, go out into the garden and dig. What? I'm like, so I'm looking around. I see no one. I just hear this voice. And it's also accompanied by a heavenly map. So what's placed into my sight, like almost like a movie screen that's in front of me, is a picture of our rose garden, a particular rose bush with a white arrow. It says, dig here. Okay? Now just bear with me because I don't want you to think I'm losing my mind here, right? I came up with the doubts that the mind comes up with. It's cold outside. I was coming up with everything to say no, And so I heard the voice again, go out into the garden and dig. A beautiful musical vibrational sound with it. Just I was doing it. There was no time lapse. So I put on my robe, I put on my Ugg boots. I'm walking down the stairs, I go outside in the front of the house and I'm going around to the side where the rose garden is. it almost felt like time was standing still, as though there was no time. 4 hummingbirds, almost in synchronization, like 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, are just floating there. And I could feel this love. I get to the soil and I start digging down, maybe 4 inches down into the ground. The soil is soft enough because it's winter, it's been raining, whatever. So I'm moving the soil, and there is a figurine. Now I'm I don't even know. I don't even think I was thinking. I was just in this like state of doing. I pick up the figurine, and it's a figurine of Mother Mary. It's small. It can fit in my palm. And I just I fell to the ground. I was sobbing because I had realized it was the mother that was this voice. I didn't know who it was prior to that. I knew that it was loving, but I didn't know exactly what that was about because as I told you, I didn't have any of that upbringing. So I knew that it was her. And I took that as the answer that I would have a girl. I would have a child. Yes, you can have this child. You can do it. And yes, we are going to give you a child. We are going to give you a daughter, which she did. She was 11 pounds, by the way.
Perhaps
she's a big one.
Wow.
So
did you go a little longer in the gestation period with this one? My gosh, 11.
No. It's just we're heavy people. I don't know.
I'm big boned. I know. We have big bone babies. Yeah, there you go.
We have big bone babies around here. So
let's pause right about here. Then more with Kymm, spelled Kymm, by the way, and her near-death experience, which is amazing, is coming up in a moment. Quick Patreon shout-out. Thank you, Chris. Chris Colson has joined the Patreon family and is now helping us out on a monthly basis. If you'd like to do the same, patreon.com, search for Trapper Jack, or come right here to episode 237. And thank you so much. And actually, while you're here at 237, click that link about Medjugorje, because we're going back, as you may have heard. This is so exciting. Things are still happening there. It's not just history. It's happening there, and it stays with you. And all those things people told me before we went just a while back, and it's true. So tell you what, when you ask for information, make sure a little box will come up, and you can put Trapper in that little message box. That way, if you happen to book before the year is up, you'll save $100 on the deer. You'll save $100 on a deer. I mean, what's better than that than having venison? I always say. But even more than that, you heard what I said. So just put Trapper in the message box, and if by chance, okay? Okay, but we're going to once again be staying with one of the visionaries, Maria. During the week we're there, May 22nd to the 30th. On the 25th is when she does her monthly message that Mary gives her, which this is a message that the whole world listens to. It's cool. It's just a cool place. So check that out. The website is medjugorjepilgrimage.life. We have a link here at episode 237. Medjugorje is spelled just like it sounds. M-E-D, like medical. Jug, J-U-G. O-R-J-E, pilgrimage.life. Okay? All right, let's get back to Kymm, spelled interestingly again, K-Y-M-M. What is this today? Without the spelling, I don't know. And Kymm came into our ice cream shop a while back and went, whoa, my people.
You were called, I have no doubt, because as soon as I heard your voice, I had that, that feeling that comes over you when I saw my husband, it was like, oh, this wash. And it's not your own imagination. It's not your own thoughts that you are operating or coming up with. It's something else. And as soon as I heard it, I was like, wait a second. It was something in your voice, the warmth, and just how you are. And it was also the content and the realness, just talking to this, a lot of different areas of subject matter. And yet you had a very strong faith, and that's okay to talk about a near death. To me, it was like, you can't talk about a near death experience. It makes a lot of Christians very uncomfortable. So I kind of feel like I have to be in the closet sometimes, and I'm done with being in the closet. And when
I know what you mean. I know.
Yeah, when I heard your show, I was like, wait, there are people like me that, that have a very strong foundation in Jesus, and it's okay to talk about these other subjects, premonition, dreams and near-death experiences and heavenly, visions.
I go back again, and it's really funny. No matter how many times I say this, it still rings a bell that's maybe new to many, which is everything that we read about in the Bible is still happening today. Why wouldn't it be? And yet we just want to keep it in that book. Like, Jesus is still sending angels. Well, that can't be. And he's still healing people. Really, where? And we're not even.
Right.
And we're barely talking about it in the church. That prayer actually works. That an angel actually will come and help you. Things like that. It's just. And we've made God so boring, and Jesus, we've turned him into Clark Kent. There's this dazzling, I'll take care of everything guy, and we've reduced him. We just have reduced him.
I'm just looking up so John 14:12. Truly, truly, I tell you, whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these, because I am going to the Father. So this is a Bible verse. Padre Pio, he healed. I mean, people are going to do things on the earth, but it's like we keep categorizing. Well, wait, that's as long as they're in this echelon, then it's
so
okay
that's a Catholic.
them.
That's a Catholic thing. No, that's an evangelical thing. That's
right.
And Jesus, I go back to episode 200, guys. Go back to episode 200. The Hindu who had a near-death experience and met Jesus. The last guy a Hindu expects to meet is Jesus,
right?
At heaven's door. And the thing that hits me, and it is not a negative. You just have to think it through. And here is Sandy, and he's standing on a platform. He's looking down to hell. He's lived a less than perfect life, a lot less than perfect life. He sees Jesus, this giant-sized Jesus on his giant throne, and he sees the narrow door. And he says, and he realized that's the only way to get into heaven. I mean, everything he experienced was absolutely theologically biblical. He sees the 12 gates, which is absolutely theological, biblical.
And he knows nothing of it.
Nothing.
Right?
He knows nothing. And when he says, okay, I'm going back, which church, which synagogue, which temple, which mosque, where do I go? I don't want to make a mistake. And Jesus just looks at him. Which temple, which mosque, which synagogue, and Jesus says, those things aren't important to me. What's important is a truthful, honest, sincere relationship. He's not putting down the church. In fact, the church is supposed to be helping us have this beautiful
experience, relationship.
This relationship, this honest, sincere relationship with Christ. That's what the church is supposed to be helping us with. And that's what he's telling them. That's what he's telling them. It's about the relationship with him, because if you're just going to church, who gives a flying fig, as my dad would say, or whatever. And so I just thought that was so eye-opening. I love my church. I love my faith. I get my faith. Now we got 40,000 denominations and all the other things, and we're scattered all over the place, and what I believe is right, and my church is the only church. And it's like, and Jesus is sitting there outside Heaven's Gate going, excuse me. It's an honest, truthful relationship with me that you're shooting for, and the church should be helping you get there.
That's right. I worship at a church, an evangelistic church. I go to the Catholic Church. I mean, maybe I'm not, 100%, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. But to me, I've received God in my heart. What's his name? Yogananda Paramhansa. He was like the ultimate guru in India, and he had a vision where Jesus told him to come to America. He saw Jesus, didn't know anything about Jesus. These things happen. These things happen to people all over the world.
We had Daniel, who lived in Indonesia, Muslim.
Yes.
And he wants to get closer to God. He's like, he keeps praying to Allah. I'm not seeing you. I'm not feeling you. Come to me.
Okay.
And finally, after fasting and the whole thing, Jesus showed up in his room. And he says, I'm the one you're looking for. And he says, well, what about Muhammad? Muhammad has nothing to do with you. I am the truth, the light, the way. And he just said, I'm the guy. He didn't, and he didn't put anybody down. He just said, Muhammad,
no.
you have nothing to do with him. He has nothing to do with you. and I'm the one you're looking. And he appeared to him 3 nights in a row. Daniel is now a priest. He's now a Greek Orthodox priest. So it's like, okay, I'm going to be a Christian. Then he's faced with the problem. Oh my gosh, there's Catholic and Greek Orthodox, and there's Lutheran and Methodist.
Like, what do I do?
Now, what the heck is all of this? And he's totally confused. Right. So he did his own research, ended up being a Greek Orthodox priest. It's a great story. It's awesome.
Well, bless him. Oh my gosh. That's so awesome.
And he's serving God.
Yes, you mentioned fasting.
Yeah.
That happened to me when I was going through the inoperable cancer. And so I was on this super green, wheatgrass, all plant, really doing like as much as I could, a cleanse. And so I was doing part of my health regime, and I was probably the lowest. This was the lowest point in my life, because I didn't know. I have 2 young children, and I wanted to live for my children. And so I was laying down in the closet, because my master closet that's a walk-in, because I didn't want anybody to hear me cry, like the kids hear me cry. Laying down in the closet, I had been fasting. I was doing this extreme regime. So I'm clean, mind, body, everything. And I'm laying there, and I'm just listening to this very beautiful meditative music. But I also was in a place that I said, I accept, I surrender completely. If this is your will and you want me, I'm going. So I was in this place where there was nowhere else to go. And I said, I need help. I want to live, but if it's your choice that you're going to take me this way, I accept it. And all of a sudden, what I call a near-death experience, but I did not die, I was transported. I'll put that in quotation marks. I was transported to heaven. I was still on my side, and below me was this intelligent mist, something like a cloud, but it was not a cloud. All of the molecules that were not molecules were intelligent, and an extension of Jesus and his love. And I sat up in heaven, and I looked on the horizon, and there was this bright light, but it seemed as though there were, like, I don't know if it was just impressed upon my heart, but it was like his white robe, like all of heaven was his white robe of love and forgiveness. And when I sat up, I heard music that is not like earthly music. It was like a vibration and a frequency and voices that was continual. It was praising him, and yet it wasn't like anything I've heard here. And I'm a musician and a singer, so it wasn't like anything I could explain. It was like this hum, maybe the original hum of creation. And I was overwhelmed with this. I just started to cry, because I was like, how could I have forgotten this love? It's just, how could I be put in a body and forgotten how much you love me? How? It wouldn't be possible. There was so much love, and not like human love. This is like all. It's so immense. It's impossible to describe. And I knew it. And I knew all the voices, and I knew all the music. And the love was so overwhelming that I started crying, and I heard myself cry in my physical body. And I came out of it, and I was just sobbing in the closet. And I believe it was because of the fasting, because there was this shift of consciousness, I believe, that I could accept that frequency and that vibration of heaven.
And while there in this heavenly realm, why? I guess the question is why? You needed to feel that love again. Why do you think they did all that?
And it's not they, but
yeah, I know it's him. It's him. But I always call heaven they. Here's what.
Yeah. I feel like this was like a prelim or something, like I was allowed to witness that love.
Yeah.
And that love was so insanely deep, and I was so insanely rock bottom. And being there with that sound and that memory, I feel like I was shown that to share this story, that it might touch someone to ask Jesus into their heart.
Was it greater than the rocking chair, Jesus?
It was different. There was this awareness of the all of heaven. In the rocking chair, that was him. Just him. He came to me and he was rocking me and holding me like a baby. And there was that immense love. This was like understanding his realm and understanding his love, even expounded upon from the rocking chair. Yes, I would say it was even more intense. There was a blade of grass next to me, and that blade of grass was intelligent. It was an extension of him.
Yeah.
And it made me realize that everything, the only reason we're breathing right now, the breath that you have, is the breath of Christ. That's what I really truly knew. When I was in that moment, I was like, how could I have forgotten? How could I have forgotten that you breathed life into me? How could I have forgotten that you love me beyond the word love, beyond anything I could ever describe in this podcast? I don't even know how to describe.
I know. If he forgot about us for a fractition, I've just created a word, a fractition of a second.
I like that word.
A fractition of a second, we wouldn't exist.
We would cease to exist. And if he stops breathing his breath into us, we cease to live. And then we go to heaven and we are with him and we're breathing for him. You know, it's.
You journal every day, don't you?
I don't journal every day. I write, you know, in my book, and my book is done now, but I need to get into that. Yeah.
I do too.
Like
I'm very streaky, and you know, because you're talking about these experiences, and there are things that day to day happen. You go, I'll remember that, and then they kind of go away.
And then you don't.
Yeah, so I need to be doing that too. And
as soon.
What's the name of your book? Didn't you rename your book? What's your book?
I did rename my book. It's called Heaven in My Eyes.
Because right now, what's the book called?
Sometimes God is a Homeless Man, and it is available on Amazon.
Sometimes God is a homeless man. Let me see. Do I want to read that?
That happened to me.
Hold it.
That happened to me.
What?
That happened to me. It's actually the name of my first chapter.
Oh,
Sometimes God is a homeless man. But I thought it was kind of clever. And then I ran into some Christian people. They're like, I'll never read that. I got reviews. when I got reviews on this magazine, where in our area where we live, and a lot of Christian people were like, we live in a really highly steeped evangelistic Christian area. And they were like, well, I would never even read this book because she called God a homeless man. And then I thought, well, I don't want to cut people off from reading the book. And then
because I get the title. I get it. That's a very Mother Teresa of Calcutta kind of thing to say, in a way.
Yes.
She saw Jesus in everybody.
Do you like it better?
Yeah.
Do you like that title better?
Then what? What's your new title?
Heaven in My Eyes.
No, that's a better title.
Which one?
Second one. The new one.
Heaven in My Eyes.
Yeah. I think it has more possibility.
I think my husband is like, the other one's too wordy. You know, you don't know what the book is about. So this one is like, Heaven in My Eyes. I see heaven. You know. Do
you have a descriptive kind of underneath the title? Is that secondary thing kind of thing?
Yeah, it's a true story of heaven and healing.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So that's it, and it's Kymm, Kymm, M as in Mary, and then Civetta. But it's CIV as in Victor, ETTA.
And again, your website is Angel what again? What is it?
AngelIntuitiveMinistry.com.
And that's also the YouTube place, same thing.
Yeah, that's the YouTube channel. And I have a Facebook page, Angel Intuitive Ministry.
I always ask the guests, you know, what's the takeaway? What is God saying in all of this? So what's our takeaway, Kymm?
Our takeaway is that don't be afraid to call on the help of heaven, whether that is Jesus and you invite him into your heart and you just ask him to forgive those that you can't forgive or to forgive yourself. If you need protection, I would call on Archangel Michael. Don't think he's too busy. And if you're dealing with issues of children, specifically children, and compassion, the need for compassion in your life, I would call to the Holy Mother and also ask her to pray for you because her prayers resonate throughout the body of Christ.
All right.
My love, this was super fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Oh, God bless you. Thanks, Kymm. We'll be back in touch.
Thank you so much. Okay, hon.
Thanks, Kymm.
AngelIntuitiveMinistry.com.
Thanks for coming into the ice cream shop and sharing your toppings that have brought you closer in your relationship to Jesus Christ. And there's no question it has done just that. I don't think any of us doubt how important Christ is to you on that day-to-day basis. That's what all these toppings are supposed to do. Not be a blockage, but bring us closer to seeing who Jesus really is, who he really is, and how he views us as beloved sons and daughters of the Father. And thank you, Jesus, for bringing us to him through this gathering here at the ice cream parlor called Touched by Heaven. All right. What is your story? Love to hear it. Share it here at touchedbyheaven.net. Let me know about your story. Thanks for keeping us a 5-star podcast in your ratings and reviews. That helps us get out there to more people. So buy those ratings and reviews. Thanks for your help on Patreon, too, for keeping this all going. If these stories are a blessing to you, patreon.com, search for Trapper Jack. Or you can come here to episode 237. And also linked here is the Medjugorje pilgrimage.life link that will tell you more about the great trip coming up at the end of May where we head back and everything that's going on in Medjugorje. And remember, when you're getting your information, a little message box will come up and put Trapper in there. And if by chance you sign up before the end of the year, then you'll save $100. So, hey, don't pass that up, right? Okay. So Medjugorje pilgrimage.life. All right. See you next week at Touched by Heaven, Everyday Encounters with God. I am your host,
Trapper Jack.
Any connection to Cleveland at all anymore then? Is there anybody here that matters? Or
Not really. Everybody got out of there. I don't know why.
Thank you so much.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Come visit us in San Diego. Yeah.